Now, as Alia mentioned earlier, today we will explore these themes through 3 distinct segments, each guided by experts in their respective fields. And my dear partner Alia will, of course, be the moderator for the first session. And it is a great honor that Bapak Menteri or Bapak Minister Pambudi will stay with us maybe for another 1 or 2 hours to join our discussion panel.
Hopefully so.
Terima kasih Bapak Menteri untuk berkenan stay bersama kami di sini dan juga menyimak nantinya 3 diskusi. We hope that you would stay for an hour or 2 or maybe until the end of this event. That would be our honor to have you here with us.
Yes, of course. Maybe until the end of the program, that would be excellent. Tapi Alhamdulillah Bapak Menteri berkenan untuk stay di acara ini.
Maybe we would like to cover again, what are the 3 topics that we have today, Alia? So, as we mentioned earlier, ladies and gentlemen, there will be 3 panel discussions today that we hope you can gain invaluable insights and inspiration from. So the first panel will focus on the role of the government's policy in shaping a robust food ecosystem. This will be very important for you, stakeholders, business players, to really understand how the policy is made and how the policy is implemented in Indonesia.
That's right. And the second panel will focus on the untapped potential of the blue economy in fostering food security in Indonesia.
And later
on,
the third panel will address the importance of a balanced nutrition in childhood for the well-being of the nation. Here we will be talking about how to tackle stunting and wasting, because in 2022, 1 out of 5 children were stunted, but the situation were improved significantly in 2023, and we want a much lower number of children stunted in 2024.
Absolutely.
And now, let's kick off the panel discussion with the first panel discussion session that will be moderated by Alia. So I'd like to leave you for moderating the first panel session, Alia. So please take it away.
Thank you very much, Rory. Terima kasih banyak. Bapak Ibu yang terhormat, kita akan mulai dengan sesi diskusi yang pertama. So allow me to set the tone a little bit on what's going to be discussed in this very first panel. So here in the panel, we'd like to engage all the stakeholders to discuss critical elements, actually, to make resilient food ecosystem. And food resiliency has always been the focus of the government of Indonesia. We aspire to feed 280 million of our population from the local produce that is sufficient, safe, nutritious, and affordable, of course. Implementing effective policies, that's going to be very important. Strengthening local production systems and ensuring food quality through rigorous standards and traceability are needed to be done. And ladies and gentlemen, under the new administration of President Prabowo Subianto, food security and food resiliency are some of the aspects that play the key foundation to reach Indonesia Emas 2045, where it is essential for the young generation to be well fed, as well as having the good nutrition for their development. And to discuss this topic and speak on the topic, we'll have 3 speakers. Let me just introduce them one by one. The first is Dr. Dr. Agung Suganda, M.Si, Director General of Livestock and Animal Health, Ministry of Agriculture. And for the second speaker, we have among us here already attending Mr. Rajendra Aryal, FAO representative for Indonesia. And the last but not least, we're going to invite later on the stage, Bapak Billy Tham, head of OLAGUD JAPFA. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's start the first panel session. And here it is, the first panel session of JAPFA Conference 2024. And without further ado, please welcome all of our speakers for this session. Selamat datang Bapak-Bapak. Welcome gentlemen. So all of these are gentlemen, only me is not a gentleman, but very honored to be on the stage with all of you. So we're going to discuss something that is very important: food security, food sufficiency, and of course the challenges that we are facing for Indonesia especially. Now, we have 3 speakers here, and all of you will have a chance of 5 to 10 minutes maximum to deliver your presentation on the topic. So let's start with the first speaker. Kita langsung saja mulai dengan pembicara pertama, Bapak Agung Suganda. Silakan Bapak, ada waktunya maksimal 10 menit untuk presentationnya.
Oke, thank you Mbak. May I speak bahasa?
Please, of course.
Is it for me to speak bahasa, Pak?
Iya, silakan Pak.
Baik, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Selamat
wabarakatuh.
pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Good morning. Bapak Ibu sekalian, suatu kehormatan kami diundang pada pagi hari ini di forum yang sangat luar biasa. Dan kami dari Direktorat Jenderal Peternakan dan Kesehatan Hewan Kementerian Pertanian akan menyampaikan terkait dengan kerangka regulasi dan kebijakan, khususnya terkait dengan pengembangan food ecosystem terkait dengan produk pangan asal hewan di Indonesia. Lanjut. Bapak Ibu sekalian, tadi kita sudah mendengarkan sambutan keynote speech dari Bapak Menteri Bappenas, Prof. Rahmat Pambudi, dan tadi juga sudah sama-sama kita saksikan bahwa Bapak Presiden Prabowo Subianto memiliki visi bersama Indonesia Maju menuju Indonesia Emas tahun 2045, dan ada 8 misi yang kita kenal dengan Asta Cita, bahwa dan tadi sudah disampaikan yang program nasional kedua diantaranya terkait dengan Kementerian Pertanian adalah swasembada pangan. Dan pada pagi hari ini tentu yang terkait dengan pangan asal hewan. Dan kalau kita sering mendengar bahwa saat ini kita juga, Bapak Presiden atau pemerintahan Pak Prabowo sudah mencanangkan program strategis nasional, yaitu program makan bergizi, dan juga di dalamnya tentu ada program minum susu juga. Dan ini merupakan suatu upaya untuk mencerdaskan anak Indonesia sampai dengan nanti menuju Indonesia Emas 2045. Tetapi yang paling penting adalah untuk sektor peternakan dan kesehatan hewan, kita bisa menyiapkan produk kita, terutama produk unggas, dan JAPFA salah satu pionir di usaha perunggasan. Dan kita semua tahu saat ini kita sudah swasembada, bahkan kita sudah surplus. Justru dengan adanya program makan bergizi yang dicanangkan Bapak Presiden, kita berharap kelebihan produksi ini bisa dimanfaatkan untuk peningkatan konsumsi kita, di samping juga untuk ekspor. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kalau kita lihat peran strategis subsektor peternakan dan kesehatan hewan, yang pertama tentu adalah penyiapan protein hewani yang aman, sehat, utuh, dan halal. Kemudian juga membuka lapangan pekerjaan dan juga usaha, kemudian juga untuk meningkatkan pendapatan dan kesejahteraan peternak, dan tentunya juga berkontribusi dalam GDP nasional kita, dan ini juga tentu mendorong pergerakan ekosistem ekonomi di daerah, peningkatan kualitas hidup, kemudian juga pengembangan industri khususnya pangan asal hewan, dan tentu juga menjadi salah satu sumber devisa kita. Karena untuk produk unggas kita sudah ekspor, bahkan saat ini kita baru saja tadi pagi kami menerima dari Uni Emirat Arab, kita sudah bisa mengekspor produk unggas kita ke sana, dan harapannya tentu ke negara-negara yang lain. Lanjut. Bapak Ibu sekalian, terkait dengan kebijakan kami di Direktorat Jenderal Peternakan dan Kesehatan Hewan, di layar bisa nggak ya dihilangin itu ya, biar bisa kelihatan. panitia TV-nya bisa nggak? Yang sebelah sini nggak kelihatan soal ini. Oke, yang
Mungkin kita
pertama.
lihat ke belakang dulu ya. Mungkin Bapak boleh lihat
Ya,
ke sini dulu
saya
sebentar gitu
berdiri ya,
Pak.
kalau begitu atau saya sebelah sana ya. Saya berdiri, mohon
Oke,
izin ya.
Silakan Pak, silakan.
Ya, terkait dengan penyediaan pangasal hewan tentunya, dan yang pasti terkait dengan peningkatan populasi dan produksi peternakan kita. Kemudian juga peningkatan kemampuan akses dan konsumsi melalui berbagai macam kegiatan, dan program makan bergizi yang dicanangkan Bapak Presiden adalah juga upaya untuk meningkatkan, sudah terbuka, sedut lagi, untuk meningkatkan konsumsi pangasalan kita, kemudian memperkuat sistem kesehatan hewan nasional. Ini juga sangat penting, termasuk juga sistem penjaminan mutu dan keamanan pangan. Kita sudah mengenal, kalau di dunia perunggasan pasti mengenal nomor kontrol veteriner, kemudian juga halal, dan baru beberapa waktu yang lalu semua unit usaha pangan wajib bersertifikat halal. Ini menjadi salah satu keunggulan kita juga. Kemudian memperkuat added value dan daya saing kita, khususnya untuk skala peternakan yang masih menengah ke bawah, koperasi juga, tetapi kalau untuk perunggasan seperti JAPFA tentu daya saingnya sudah sangat luar biasa. Kemudian juga meningkatkan investasi di bidang peternakan, dan Bapak Ibu sekalian nanti kita akan lihat bagaimana di subsektor peternakan kita mendorong investasi khususnya untuk peningkatan populasi dan produksi susu dan daging sapi nasional. Kemudian juga mempromosikan terkait dengan pengolahan, dan tentu ini kita dorong bukan hanya untuk memenuhi kebutuhan dalam negeri, juga kita dorong untuk ekspor ke luar negeri. Lanjut. Kalau kita bicara program makan bergizi, untuk produk peternakan paling tidak ada 4 produk utama, yaitu daging ayam dan telur ayam ras. Dan untuk 2 komoditas ini alhamdulillah kita sudah surplus, bahkan saat ini kita bingung bagaimana menghadapi kelebihan produk ini. Dan tentu dengan ada program makan bergizi, ini menjadi penyerap untuk kelebihan tersebut. Kemudian untuk daging sapi dan susu, saat ini kita masih kekurangan. Dan inilah yang tentu menjadi PR kita bersama, dan ini menjadi prioritas kami di subsektor peternakan untuk meningkatkan populasi sapi perah dan sapi pedaging untuk menghasilkan produk susu dan daging sapi memenuhi kebutuhan baik reguler maupun program makan bergizi. Lanjut. Sebelum masuk ke daging sapi dan susu, untuk produk peternakan unggas, walaupun saat ini kita sudah surplus, tetapi kita terus mendorong bagaimana membangun klaster peternakan di pedesaan, khususnya untuk penyiapan gizi bagi rumah tangga, maupun sebagian hasilnya juga bisa meningkatkan pendapatan karena mensuplai ke unit-unit layanan yang menyediakan program makan bergizi. Nah, ini juga sedang kita gagas, dan salah satu yang akan mendorong membantu kita juga JAPFA Group akan juga membantu, karena ini juga merupakan bentuk kolaborasi bukan hanya pemerintah, kemudian juga koperasi, tetapi juga tentu dengan mitra-mitra peternakan yang ada. Dan ini sedang kita dorong ke depan. Lanjut. Ini model yang kita bangun yang nanti pilot project-nya akan disupport oleh JAPFA di Purwakarta. Kita membuat klaster-klaster peternakan ayam petelur di skala rumah tangga, yang nanti diharapkan setiap hari telurnya ada yang sebagian bisa dikonsumsi dan sebagian bisa dikumpulkan di BUMDes-nya atau di koperasi untuk mensuplai ke unit-unit layanan dapur. Dan ini kita harapkan bekerjasama juga dengan Kementerian Desa, sehingga secara total jumlahnya secara nasional akan terus bertambah. Lanjut. Nah, kalau kita bicara terkait dengan bagaimana upaya kita mempercepat penyediaan susu dan daging sapi, paling tidak ada 5 kunci atau 5 modal dasar. Yang pertama adalah lahan. Saat ini kami di Kementerian Pertanian sudah berhasil mengidentifikasi 1,7 juta lahan milik pemerintah yang posisinya idle, yang nanti bisa kita kerjasamakan untuk pengembangan sektor sapi perah dan sapi pedaging. Kemudian juga sumber daya peternakan kita. Kita punya balai-balai, kita punya balai pembibitan, kesehatan hewan, tetapi ini juga tentu masih belum optimal. Kemudian yang ketiga, SDM peternakan kita yang sangat beragam. Kemudian juga infrastruktur kita yang tentunya tidak semua merata. Dan yang paling penting lagi tentu dukungan dari kebijakan agar pembangunan peternakan khususnya untuk komoditas sapi perah dan sapi pedaging juga terus meningkat. Dan ini semua kita bungkus dalam strategi. Saat ini kita sedang membuat regulasi terkait dengan bagaimana mendorong investasi di sapi perah dan sapi pedaging. Kemudian kami juga melakukan link and match antara calon investor dengan para peternak yang ada, koperasi, perusahaan peternakan di Indonesia. Kemudian kita tentu harus memasukkan juga sapinya, baik sapi perah maupun sapi pedaging, termasuk material genetiknya dari luar untuk menambah populasi yang ada di dalam negeri. Kemudian dukungan perbankan, tadi kami ketemu dengan Bank Rakyat Indonesia, mudah-mudahan bisa membantu skema pembiayaan. Karena pemerintah saat ini masih terbatas anggarannya, sehingga kita mendorong untuk penambahan populasi, meminta dukungan dari para mitra untuk membantu pemerintah melalui pengadaan sapi dan sebagainya, bekerja sama dengan mitra-mitra yang sudah ada di Indonesia. Kemudian juga tentunya kita ingin mendorong bagaimana upaya peningkatan populasi ini terus disinergikan dan dibangun secara bisnis. Lanjut. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, di Kementerian Pertanian khususnya di Dirjen PKH, kami sudah membuat peta jalan atau roadmap untuk penyediaan susu di tahun 2025 sampai dengan 2029. Untuk mencapai impor kita di bawah 10%, minimal 1 juta sapi perah betina produktif ya, yang harus masuk ke Indonesia. Dan saat ini sudah ada 134 calon investor yang sudah berkomitmen untuk mendatangkan sapi perah dan akan dikerjasamakan baik melalui program kemitraan maupun membangun peternakan di Indonesia. Ada beberapa calon investor dari luar negeri seperti dari Vietnam, TH Group, kemudian Pampres dari Malaysia dan beberapa perusahaan yang lain juga akan membangun peternakan sapi perah di Indonesia. Dan saya juga berharap JAPFA bisa juga membangun di Indonesia dan membawa sapi perah yang ada di China untuk dibudidayakan juga di Indonesia, Pak Renaldo. Saya pikir yang di China bisa di-cloning lagi Pak di Indonesia. Captive marketnya ada Pak untuk memenuhi program minum susu saat ini. Jadi saya pikir ini PR-nya bagi JAPFA juga, walaupun dulu sudah ada juga, tetapi ke depan mungkin peluang ini harus ditangkap juga. Lanjut, begitupun juga untuk sapi pedaging, kita masih impor cukup besar dan sampai dengan 2029 kita juga menargetkan 1 juta ekor tambahan sapi betina produktif untuk pedaging ini, dan baru ada 70 investor juga, jadi jumlahnya masih kurang. Kami terus meminta dukungan dan partisipasi dari mitra peternakan untuk masuk ke investasi sapi pedaging ini. Lanjut. Nah, kemudian untuk jangka pendek, tentu saat ini kami sedang menyusun beberapa regulasi. Yang pertama, revisi kedua peraturan pemerintah nomor 4 tahun 2016 sudah ditandatangani oleh Bapak Presiden dan saat ini tinggal proses penomoran dan pengundang-undangan, dan tentu akan diikuti dengan terbitnya regulasi turunannya yaitu peraturan Menteri Pertanian dan tentu peraturan Menteri Perdagangan. Revisinya mengikuti revisi kedua peraturan pemerintah ini. Kemudian juga kita mengidentifikasi lahan, kemudian melink and match-kan, tentu pemerintah saat ini untuk calon investor yang akan membangun peternakan terintegrasi, lokasinya kita daftarkan ke Bappenas untuk masuk menjadi proyek strategi nasional. Karena pasti akan banyak kemudahan di sana kalau ini menjadi proyek strategi nasional. Kemudian kita juga membuka dengan ditandatangannya revisi kedua peraturan pemerintah nomor 4 tahun 2016, maka kita bisa mendatangkan sapi perah tropis dari Brazil, termasuk juga sapi pedagingnya, dan tentu dengan negara-negara yang lain, termasuk dari New Zealand. Mudah-mudahan tahun depan sudah bisa ekspornya melalui laut. Kemudian juga kita mendorong model kerjasama bisnis to bisnis, baik yang sifatnya kemitraan maupun juga bisnis murni dengan peternakan atau antar perusahaan peternakan di Indonesia, dan terus kita dorong mudah-mudahan di pertengahan atau akhir Desember ini ada investment forum meeting yang tentu akan mempertemukan calon-calon investor terkait dengan sapi perah dan sapi pedaging. Kemudian juga yang pasti kita berharap 30 lokasi yang kita usulkan akan ditetapkan menjadi lokasi proyek strategi nasional, sehingga nanti supporting dari kementerian lembaga yang bisa dilihat di layar ini akan bisa masuk ke sana, sehingga calon-calon investor yang akan membangun peternakan tersebut bisa mendapatkan dukungan dari pemerintah, bukan hanya dari sewa lahannya, tetapi juga infrastruktur dan sarana pendukungnya. Saya mendapatkan informasi JAPFA membangun peternakan sapi perah di China, dan ternyata sekarang rencana besok sudah disediakan dibangunkan jalan dan sebagainya. Mudah-mudahan di kita juga bisa begitu, Pak. Karena ini proyek nasional, strategis nasional, dan komitmen pimpinan kita, karena tanpa ada dukungan dari para mitra, maka pemerintah tidak mungkin bisa mendatangkan sapi dalam jumlah yang begitu besar. Lanjut. Nah, ini adalah model kita. Saat ini kita sudah punya mengidentifikasi lahan sebanyak 1,7 juta hektar di 3.346 titik. Ini by name by address-nya ada, dan ternyata lahan kita banyak yang idle, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Ada yang 10.000 hektar, ada yang sampai dengan 500 hektar, kita punya banyak lahan. Dan kondisinya memang belum maksimal digunakan. Kemudian calon investor untuk sapi perah sudah ada 134 investor dan sudah berkomitmen untuk memasukkan sapi perah sebanyak 1,2 juta dari tahun 2025 sampai dengan 2029, sedangkan untuk sapi pedaging baru 70 investor dan sekitar 800.000 ekor. Ini ada dua model pendekatannya, yaitu model mega farm, dia membangun peternakan terintegrasi di Indonesia, dan yang satunya pola kemitraan melalui skema tentu bisnis to bisnis. Dan tentu perbankan, kemudian asuransi, ini juga menjadi hal yang penting untuk mewujudkan model kerjasama ini. Lanjut. Nah, tentu untuk bisnis continuity planning yang harus dilakukan oleh pemerintah, kita membagi dalam 3 kelompok. Yang pertama, regulasi terkait dengan importasi sapinya. Tentu ini akan kita permudah, dan saat ini tadi PP-nya sudah ditandatangani. Kemudian juga kita mewajibkan adanya penyerapan susu dan daging sapi lokal. Rancangan Perpresnya sedang disiapkan saat ini, mudah-mudahan tidak terlalu lama juga akan keluar. Termasuk juga standarisasi dan labelisasi, khususnya untuk produk susu. Ini menjadi policy yang saat ini sedang kita siapkan dan beberapa sudah jalan. Kemudian dari sisi kebijakan fiskal, diantaranya adalah kita mendorong tax allowance, kemudian juga untuk skema pembiayaan bunga 3%, dan grace period yang di atas 3 tahun, kemudian juga tentu skema-skema asuransi dan sebagainya. Kemudian dari sisi operasional, tadi sudah kami sampaikan, kami mengusulkan NSP, National Strategic Project, yang tentu ini akan menjadi penguat untuk dukungan dari kementerian lembaga yang lain, penyediaan infrastruktur dan logistik, termasuk pelabuhan, jalan. Contohnya kami TS Group itu akan membangun di Lembah Napu, di Sulawesi Tengah, di Maros, kemudian juga di Seko, dan itu memang harus didukung dengan infrastruktur yang harus disiapkan oleh pemerintah. Kemudian juga akselerasi untuk penyediaan hijauan pakan ternak. Baik bibitnya kita impor dari negara-negara yang baru, maupun juga optimalisasi hijauan pakan ternak yang ada di Indonesia. Kemudian mekanisasi, digitalisasi, ini juga harus kita dorong, karena tanpa ini tentu tidak akan efektif juga, dan ujungnya adalah bagaimana membangun ekosistem investasi yang bisa menguntungkan bagi investor, termasuk juga bagi konsumen yang akan merasakan hasilnya. Lanjut. Ya, kemudian penjaminan keamanan pangan tentu sudah, kalau yang hadir di sini dari pelaku perunggasan sudah mengenal ASUH, ya, SAFE, Wholesome, kemudian halal, ya. Ini tentu menjadi jaminan yang diberikan oleh kami, termasuk juga mandatori halal saat ini menjadi hal yang mandatori dan RPH, RPHU, kemudian pengolahan makanan pasti sudah mendapatkan sertifikasi halal ini, termasuk nomor kontrol veteriner yang menjadi jaminan bahwa unit usaha sudah menerapkan sistem keamanan pangan yang baik. Lanjut.
Ya, Pak mengingatkan saja bahwa waktu kita sudah habis.
Ya, baik.
Jadi mohon dipercepat.
2 slide lagi.
Ya,
nah,
silakan,
kebetulan
Pak.
untuk uji coba atau trial program minum susu, kami sudah mencoba di Banyumas. Ini kebetulan kami menghasilkan susu di Balai Pembibitan di Baturaden, dan ini adalah susunya susu segar 200 ml pasteurisasi, dan ini sudah kita lakukan dari mulai 5 Agustus sampai dengan 20 Desember. Ini sudah berjalan. Lanjut, kemudian untuk makan siangnya baru berjalan di 17 September sampai 20 Desember, dan semua pembiayaannya melalui CSR baik dari BUMN maupun juga dari private company, salah satunya dari JAPFA, dan ini berjalan menggunakan catering yang ada di sekitar Banyumas di Jawa Tengah. Dan ternyata ini proyek seperti ini sudah banyak juga di Bogor, Sukabumi, dan menandakan bahwa kita siap. Program makan bergizi akan siap di tahun 2025 dan pilot projectnya sudah cukup banyak, dan ini sangat membantu peningkatan gizi anak-anak baik SD, SMP maupun juga SMA. Mungkin demikian Bapak Ibu sekalian yang dapat saya sampaikan. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Pak Agung untuk pemaparannya, bagaimana update-nya mengenai livestock di Indonesia dan juga roadmap dari kementerian ke depan. Tadi ada beberapa hal yang mungkin bisa ada improvement juga ya, karena kita punya banyak land tapi kemudian itu belum digunakan secara efisien dan efektif begitu ya. Dan juga ada beberapa livestock yang sudah cukup di Indonesia tapi kemudian ini berlebih dan harus diapakan gitu. Jadi kita masih perlu punya strategi-strategi untuk bagaimana caranya kita mengambil lagi benefit dari kelebihan livestock yang kita punya di Indonesia. Dan juga ada plan mengenai investment, asuransi dari beef dan milk yang tadi disampaikan Pak Agung. Pak Agung ini sangat fasih ya kalau bicara mengenai livestock. Tadi saya sampai kelupaan untuk kasih tahu bionya beliau. Ini sudah dari tahun 2006 di kementerian, betul ya Pak? 2004 setelah keluar dari JAPFA Santori gitu ya. Nah, beliau ini pernah di JAPFA Santori dari 2000 sampai 2004, kemudian bergabung di kementerian, terakhir di 2022 hingga 2024 beliau menjabat Direktur Pembibitan dan Produksi Ternak, dan dari 2024 sampai sekarang adalah Direktur Jenderal Peternakan dan Kesehatan Hewan Kementerian Pertanian. Beliau ini juga adalah lulusan dari Institut Pertanian Bogor, Sarjana Kedokteran Hewan, dan melanjut juga IPB Master Kesehatan Masyarakat Veteriner Institut Pertanian Bogor, dan Doktor Studi Pembangunan Universitas Hasanuddin. Terima kasih sekali untuk presentasinya, dan Bapak Ibu boleh tepuk tangannya untuk Pak Agung. Silakan Bapak Ibu, kami ingin diskusi yang lebih lively dan dynamic. Jadi ada barcode tadi di tag Bapak Ibu yang lagi dikalungin itu. Nah, di situ ada barcode yang paling atas, itu bisa di-scan. Silakan scan, nanti bisa Bapak Ibu masukkan pertanyaan yang bisa diadres kepada semua narasumber yang ada di depan. Okay, let's move on to our next speaker. We have next to me here Mr. Rajendra Aryal. Thank you for joining us today. So 28 years of work experience with public and private sectors, FAO representative in Indonesia since mid-August 2021, and prior to his current appointment, he was FAO representative in Afghanistan for 3 years. And he was the Senior Program Advisor for Resilience Building in FAO Emergency Operations Division in Rome, Italy from 2015 to September 2018. Since March 2023, he has held various positions within the Food Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations, and Mr. Aryal also worked as Program Officer with UN, sorry, it's just some technical glitches, I'm sorry. UNDP, UNCDF, and German Technical Cooperation, or GIZ. And he also has a master's degree in civil engineering from Leibniz University, Hanover, Germany, and bachelor's degree in civil engineering from National Institute of Technology, Trichy, India. So, Mr. Aryal, please, you have a lot of experiences. We would like to learn as well, since Indonesia has programs to be put in place starting this year. Next year, it will be effectively imposed. So, if you could enlighten us with your experience within this 10 minutes as well. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, JAPFA, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. Indonesia, as we heard from the minister in the morning, we heard about food systems transformation. I think it's important to understand what food systems is and what is the transformation needed. Who's putting the slides together? Okay. So if I explain in a very simple way, the agri-food system is the journey from farm to the table. Let's understand that way. And it's the entire value chain. So it starts from production up to the consumption and food loss and waste. And this is where we need the transformation, but at every stage, every step. Next slide, please. Next. Okay. So why do we need the food system transformation? You see, there are still 700 million people in the world that are still hungry, suffering from chronic hunger. Globally, 144 million children under 5 years are stunted. At the same time, 2 billion people suffer from overweight and obesity. And the healthy diet costs 5 times more than the normal diet. And on average, including Indonesia, per capita need for accessing 3 times healthy diet per day is $4. So now imagine a family of 4 that needs $16 only for food, only for healthy diets. That is about $500 a month, 7.5 juta. On top of that, you have other expenses at household levels, sending the children to school, buying medicines and others, buying the fuel and all. Do all families have access to that much money? So what is easier? Maybe some other food that is not healthy enough. So if you see Indonesia, you still have, like say, we still have about 20% of stunting, yeah? But at the same time, we also have obesity. Almost 24% of people are obese or overweight. And if you look at the food waste and lost, Indonesia is one of the countries that has the highest quantity of food loss or waste. Food loss is lost from production up to the retailing, and waste is mainly in the consumption. So if you look at the whole value chain, 30% of the food is wasted in Indonesia, 70% is lost in consumption. And by miracle, if everything stops, say it goes to zero, nil, and it's not me saying, it's Bapana's study saying, if everything becomes zero by miracle, the quantity of food wasted or lost can feed additional 50 million people. So you see that. And that is where we need the food system transformation. So that's what we call triple burden of, the malnutrition. I gave the figure. And the food system related problems, around 120 million people still do not afford a healthy diet. And if you see even the families, now, increasingly in urban areas, but also in the rural areas, people are consuming food from outside. People are not cooking at home. So can we guarantee that the food sold at the warungs are healthy and nutritious enough? Probably not. So these are the things that we need to fix. And these are not quick fix. Next slide, please. So again, I say Indonesia as a country which is very progressive. I'm talking about global level. And it's not me saying, actually, it's even my Director General who says Indonesia is one of the countries that is really much ahead of the curve. And if you recall, the FAO Director General came to Indonesia to confer the most prestigious award of FAO, that is called Agricola Medal, to President Jokowi. I would like to congratulate Indonesia for that. Meaning, Indonesia is taking very progressive steps. But if we see the vastness, sometimes when I go to Rome and I make a presentation, I always love to put this figure on the slide. Because people know Indonesia, they don't know the vastness of Indonesia. They don't know the aerial distance from Aceh to Papua, which is 5,000 kilometers. They cannot imagine that this is the 4th most populous nation in the world. So there's no quick fix. But again, as we heard from Minister this morning, the Astachita, the 8 quick gains, the 17 activities, I think we can do it together. Last week, I was having a meeting with somebody from Brazil on food system transformation. And the lady said, this happened in my generation, and we have zero hunger. This is possible, And thank you very much. I would like to also express my sincere thanks to Ministry of Agriculture. We work very closely together. Next slide, please. Okay, so Indonesia already has this national pathway for food system transformation. Next slide, please. So the regulatory framework, I think the minister already talked about it this morning. Agung, you also talked about it. There are a lot of regulatory frameworks that really ease the path towards the food system transformation. But having said that, that's not the end. That's just the beginning. I think we need to do more. I don't want to go into all the depths of this regulatory frameworks and all. Next slide, please. Okay, this is very interesting thing that Indonesia has done. It is the game-changing solution. It's called National Food System Transformation Pathway. So the country is divided into different regions, and this is led by Bappenas. I'm sure people in Bappenas, they know about it. And the country is divided into zones, because if you see the vastness, say 17,500 islands, we have problems with geographical access. We have problem with financial access. We have problems with distance. So these are the challenges. But again, the national pathway already gives that way. So I was just talking to the minister this morning. Indonesia was very strongly represented last year in something called UN Food System Summit Stocktaking Moment +2. That was in 2023, which was a follow-up to the first UN Food System Summit in 2021 in New York. Last year it was in Rome. Next year, it's called Food System Summit +4, Stocktaking Moment. And I was actually requesting Minister if he can go and make a presentation on Indonesia's progress on the national pathway, and he already has expressed his interest, so I hope we can make it happen. Next slide, please. So this national pathway for food system transformation is already on the website. I mean, in the essence of time, let me not go into the detail. So if you are interested in knowing more about Indonesia's journey towards achieving food self-sufficiency and zero hunger, this shows the roadmap. Please do visit. This is a very interesting document. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the key accelerators, the technology, the data, innovation. I think, Pasantoso, you talked about also the youth, you yourself as youth, This is another big challenge. I'll come to that in my next slide. So there are different elements that are considered as the key accelerators for Indonesia's food system transformation. Next slide. Okay, now, one of the biggest challenge Indonesia is facing, but also globally, many countries in the world are facing, is the decline of youth in agriculture. There was this agriculture census last year, Agung, BPS carried out this census. It says almost 70% of the farmers in Indonesia are 40 or above. So who's going to produce food in next 20 years? Gen Z are not interested. How do we attract Gen Z? I'm really glad to see you as youth. You represent such a big organization. I think you will become the inspirator, You need to be the role model, Pasantoso. How do we attract the youth? If you go to the COVID period, say 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021, Indonesia actually did not have to import rice. Rice was sufficiently produced. Why? Because people returned back home probably. And they started farming. You see? But then again, after the COVID, the food gap, the rice gap started increasing. And now it's about 3 million metric ton, the gap. So meaning it's possible, but we need to provide the tools. We need to provide the opportunities. We need to provide, now the Gen Zs, they have all apps, they have all smartphones. How do we connect them in the food systems? That is why it's not only production. It's not only going to the water or going to the field and making your hands and feet dirty. No. The youth can be engaged in anywhere in the value chain. And this is where private sector can play a very good role. I think this is where we need to work together. Sometimes, when we say public sector and private sector, we sit at the same table and we speak different language. I think we need to bridge that gap, right? We need to start speaking the same language. And that's how I think we can make this food system transformation possible. All parties must work together. What is that? Kita, bisa, semua, bersama. Next slide, please. Bersama kita semua. So actually we piloted one project together with coordinating Ministry of Economic Affairs, the President's Office, Pramuka and HKTI. It's about street generation of youth in farming, regenerasi petani muda. The first graduates will be coming out on the 28th of December. So I would like to request JAPFA if we can connect some of them to at least have, but also there are a lot of people from the private sector. If you can engage, if you can observe these guys, you know, these guys will be the inspiration also for other youths because they represent different provinces of Indonesia. And the next batch will be trained in Lampung. I also mentioned the governor of Lampung this morning. Maybe this is where we can, you know, and this is just a pilot. This is a sort of like a pilot where we have trained the youth in this food system value chain. Now they will go to the market. And last time when I had an interaction with them, I asked them, imagine if you have 5 million, 5 juta, what will you do? Do you think you can start something? And they had brilliant ideas. Somebody was talking about producing organic manure. Somebody was talking about producing seed. Somebody was talking about packing and processing. So these people can be transformed into agripreneurs, but they need capital. And that's where we need the private sector. That's also where we need the public sector. And it's not capital in millions. Huh? It's a capital of few juta, few million rupiah. Next slide, please. Okay, so this project is like how we are, you know, having the impact. The impact is like how we can contribute to the food system transformation, how we contribute to the Vision Indonesia 2045, the RPJMN, and so on. Next slide, please. Okay, and also, how do we connect? How do we contribute to this free nutritious meal? Makan bergizi gratis. I think, Pak Agung, you made brilliant presentation how you are already contributing from the animal health side and animal production side. I think from the whole value chain of food system transformation, this is a program, I think, that will lead Indonesia to zero hunger, zero poverty. And as I was talking about Brazil, this is possible. But we need to really work together. Next slide, please. And that's where we need to collaborate. Private, public-private partnership. Because, next slide, please. This will have a very big dollar amount needed, yeah? And not the government is able to do that by itself. We need to start working how we can unlock financing. Bring the private sectors, bring others who can contribute together. Next slide, please. So I would like to thank you very much. I'll stop here. I hope I did it within 10 minutes.
You did. Thank you very much, Mr. Aryal. Let's give a big round of applause.
Thanks.
So it is now quite convincing enough that Indonesia actually can do it. There's somehow along the way, there's this habit that's been done for years that we have food that is actually enough, but it's lost somewhere. Some people are obese, some other people are having stunting. Maybe we are, sparsely distributed from Sabang to Merauke, right? There are the difficulties of our geographical shape in Indonesia with 17,000 more islands in the country. But thank you so much for enlightening us that there are ways actually to have this food security going on in the country. Of course, it's not easy, but when all hands are on deck, we believe that we can do that. So once again, thank you, Mr. Aryal. Now I have my next speaker, Mr. Tham, and he's the head of OLAGUD JAPFA. So he was in the Republic of Singapore Army somewhat. What year was that? Before 2007, 1995. And then he joined Amtech Engineering Ltd Singapore Europe between 2003 to 2007 and joining McDonald's Corporation Singapore 2007 until 2018. And he joined JAPFA. JAPFA Ltd Singapore Indonesia was the Vice President Business Development from May 2018 until present. Is that right? As well as head of OLAGUD November 2023 until present. And he holds his bachelor degree in in Mechanical Engineering University of Michigan and M.Si Management Science and Engineering from Stanford University. So please go ahead. You have also maximum 10 minutes for the presentation.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be joined today by Pak Agung and Pak Rajendra for today's discussion. And I look forward to having and engaging this session with all of you. Next slide, please. So let me draw your attention to this cantaloupe melon. It is widely seen as a healthy and harmless fruit, not something that anyone would associate with risk. Next slide. And yet, a cantaloupe was at the center of one of the most significant foodborne incidents in the US, causing over 150 illnesses and 30 fatalities due to improper handling and processing. Next. What can we learn from this? When dealing with food, which is generally perishable by nature and requires complex handling processes, incidents can occasionally happen. The key is to have robust safety protocols to trace, respond to, and resolve issues swiftly, protecting public health and maintaining consumer trust. Next. This focus on safety aligns with changing consumer priorities. In 2024, over 70% of consumers see food traceability as essential. And in Indonesia, consumers prioritize freshness, natural ingredients, and high-quality food over flavor and convenience. Next. So at JAPFA, we have made our mark by providing Indonesians with safe, quality, and accessible protein products. Our vertically integrated business model spans the entire agri-food value chain, from feed production and breeding to farming, processing, and distribution. This integration allows us not only to deliver great food, but also the trust that comes along with traceability and food security. Next. We adhere to strict certification standards, including NKV, ISO 22000, Halal, and HACCP, guaranteeing that every single bite of our animal protein is as safe as it is nutritious. Next. Starting with feed, animal nutrition is the cornerstone of our fully integrated operations. Good food begins with what the animals eat, and we take great care in formulating feed tailored to livestock needs and tropical climates. Our expert nutritionists ensure optimal nutrition and consistent quality. And of course, traceability is key. And up to 50% of our corn is sourced locally, maintaining a sustainable supply chain and supporting our local farmers. Next. We use superior breeds and advanced animal husbandry practices to ensure product quality. For example, our collaboration with global leaders in poultry genetics results in high-performance day-old chicks, specifically adapted to tropical conditions. This allows for quality and efficiency, with optimal feed conversion and water usage, and also lower waste production. Next. We apply modern farming methodologies with a strong focus on animal health and biosecurity. Our closed house farms reduce heat stress and enhance animal welfare. In fact, you guys don't know this, but we are the only poultry company in Indonesia with an in-house vaccine R&D and production unit for disease prevention and control. The company is Vaccindo. And we run routine audits ensuring high standards and work very closely with the government to ensure that our farms are AI-free. Next. At JAPFA, we aim to create a sustainable ecosystem with our partner farmers, fostering mutual benefit and growth. We provide technical expertise on farming methods and sustainable practices to enhance their productivity. We offer support and problem-solving training throughout each production cycle to about our 10,000 partner farmers in Indonesia. Next. Our downstream consumer food products are manufactured with utmost care, primarily using our own animal proteins as raw materials, which ensures consistency in the food quality, safety, and reliability. We follow thorough processing practices to maintain high standards, including a clean and controlled environment with strong hygiene measures. Next. And in terms of distribution, our extensive distribution network spans across all 17,500 islands in Indonesia, reaching over 160,000 touch points nationwide. And this vast network ensures that our products are accessible to every corner of the country, enabling us to deliver nutritious food to everyone. Next. So under the JAPFA food umbrella, our brands offer high-quality protein options that are trusted and loved by consumers across Indonesia. For instance, Tokusen is the only Wagyu beef produced in Indonesia and was even served to the heads of state at the G20 summit dinner in Bali. Our Toba tilapia is farmed in the pristine waters of Lake Toba, providing fresh and sustainable tilapia to our customers. And of course, we have, I think many of you are familiar with our heritage brand, So Good, which offers convenient, nutritious, and delicious protein choices. Next. Today, I'd like to focus on our newest brand, OLAGUD, which is our probiotic chicken that represents the very best of JAPFA food in terms of quality, nutrition, and sustainability. At OLAGUD, the health and well-being of our chickens are at the heart of everything that we do. We nourish them with probiotic-enriched diets and raise them with care in modern farms that prioritize their comfort and biosecurity. From the moment they are born, they thrive in temperature-controlled environments where every need is met through automated feeding and drinking systems, ensuring that they are always cared for with consistency and efficiency. And yes, even Beethoven plays a part in this journey, creating an atmosphere that promotes calmness and well-being. So the quality of the product speaks for itself. OLAGUD meets the stringent standards of the Singapore Food Agency, and in 2023, JAPFA became the first company to export live chickens from Indonesia to Singapore, contributing to their food security strategy as well. This milestone highlights the trust in our ability to deliver fresh, nutritious, and high-quality protein that meets the standards of one of the world's most stringent markets. And also, this achievement is the result of the combined efforts of the Singapore and Indonesian authorities, as well as JAPFA, and bodes well for future growth and export opportunities. Next. So, agriculture and livestock production are vital sectors to people's lives and economies. Delivering safe and nutritious food is a behind-the-scenes effort that requires strong collaboration between the government, the farmers, and companies like JAPFA, working together to uphold safety standards, produce quality food, and ensures that it reaches consumers every day. Next. So I look forward to exploring these efforts further during our panel discussion and addressing your questions as well as we work towards building a strong, resilient food ecosystem in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tham. So there are certainly challenges for Indonesia, but we are in the transformational period, as mentioned by Mr. Aryal. But the questions are also from Agung's presentation. We know that there are some problems or challenges, but perhaps allow me to, give you a challenge now to pick what are the biggest challenges from your point of view, Agung, from your point of view as well, Mr. Bill and Mr. Aryal, Mr. Rajendra. What are the biggest challenge when you see Indonesia trying so hard and achieving food security, achieving food self-sufficiency and all? Mungkin boleh mulai dari Bapak, apa sih Pak challenge terbesarnya?
Oke, challenge terbesar untuk pembangunan peternakan dalam penyiapan protein hewani, karena kami di protein hewani, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Challenge yang terbesar adalah bagaimana membuat bisnis ini menguntungkan. Tadi Pak Aryal menyampaikan bahwa saat ini pelaku usaha khususnya di peternakan, kalau lihat data statistik, peternak kita, yang peternak rakyat ya, itu mayoritas umurnya sudah di atas 56 tahun. Dan ini challenge kita, regenerasi peternak khususnya itu sangat minim. Kenapa? Karena bisnis peternakan tidak menguntungkan. Jadi challenge kita terbesar adalah bagaimana membuat bisnis ini menguntungkan. Kalau bisnis ini menguntungkan, kita tidak usah merayu investor, kita tidak usah mengajak orang untuk berbisnis di sini. Pasti semua akan berbondong-bondong untuk beternak, menghasilkan produk peternakan, protein hewani yang digunakan untuk kebutuhan pangan kita. Jadi tantangan terbesar adalah bagaimana membuat ekosistem di usaha peternakan agar bisa menguntungkan. Kemudian yang kedua challenge-nya adalah bagaimana bertransformasi dari tradisional farming ke modern farming. Dengan menggunakan teknologi, dengan menggunakan machinery, kemudian juga dengan menggunakan digitalisasi, ini transformasi akan terjadi. Tanpa menguntungkan, tanpa ada transformasi, maka hanya mimpi kita menuju swasembada pangan ke depan. Seperti itu.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Agung. Jadi perlu ada transformasi yang lebih modern untuk semua lini yang terkait dengan peternakan tadi yang Bapak sampaikan, dan juga challenge terbesarnya adalah bagaimana membuat ya peternak dan juga petani itu jadi untung gitu ya. Businesses are gaining good revenues from this business. Okay, maybe to Pak Billy first. How do you see Indonesia, and if you can pick like the biggest challenge from your point of view?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest challenges in terms of like food safety and quality is cold chain, logistics, and warehousing. So I think the infrastructure in Indonesia is still nascent, and it requires a lot of investment to reach all 17,500 islands across Indonesia. So this requires private-public partnership and investments to make this happen. That's number one. And number two, I think education is also important in terms of like educating both the producers and also the consumers on food safety, and as well as understanding like what it means to have like a balanced diet, as Mr. Rajendra pointed out. So producing like the right affordable as well as convenient and healthy options for the consumer is also very important, and educating the consumers on what a healthy diet is. So those are the 2 points I have. Yeah.
Okay, so more infrastructure, but that needs funding or money. And second is education, so that everyone can actually understand what they're producing and at the end of the day what they're eating. So we need to be aware of all these, education and infrastructure. Okay, what about you, Mr. Aryal?
Well, I mean, again, I look at the whole, the whole value chain. There are challenges all across the value chain. You talked more from the consumption. Agung talked about livestock. I mean, we can talk at every sector, but what he rightly said, I think education. Important is for the people to understand. Yesterday morning, I was in Yogyakarta. I was walking along the rice field, and I could talk to some Ibu who were like, using the traditional method of farming. And if you see the production of Indonesia, it's like around 3 metric ton per hectare. And there is technology available already. We don't need to go far away. We can go to China, we can go to Vietnam. They are using like, direct seeding technology, direct seeding methodology, measuring the pH value of soil and measuring the pH value of water and placing the seed in a way that can boost production. So there is a way to intensify the production and support the country towards the path of self-sufficiency in rice production. But for that, we need to educate the people. Are they willing to leave the traditional practice so easily? Probably not. Then another challenge I see is, again, as Agung also rightly said, to attract the youth in farming. Not only farming, fishing. I was talking to some of the young people in Cirebon who were practicing, they were going to the sea to catch the blue swimming crab, which they were doing for generations. But now these guys are not interested because one guy told me that the amount of money he gets by selling his blue swimming crab at the farm gate is not sufficient to buy 2 packs of cigarette. So he says, I better go to Jakarta or Surabaya or Medan and work in a supermarket than go to the sea, risking my life. So how can we bring that value addition? How can we bring more money to the people? How can we help them really connect with the market, so that they can get more money and still continue with the job that they did or their forefathers did? I think that is a very big challenge. And it's the same in Italy, You go to the villages in Italy, you go to Sicily, nobody is there in the village. All the apartments are on sale. The parents die, the people have moved to the city. Japan, the same problem. Japan is bringing people from outside to work. Korea has the same problem. So, before it is too late, I think we really need to work on regeneration of youth in farming. And I again look at you, President Director. You have a very big role to play, also as a youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rajendra, Aryal. Okay, so those are the challenges. And now, if we see the upstream, midstream, downstream sectors, and you want to see, you sort of see like the gaps in foods, upstream, midstream, as well as downstream sectors. Kira-kira Pak, sorry, I switched to Indonesian ya. Kira-kira Pak, bagaimana government dan juga swasta ya, private sectors bisa melakukan perubahan dan mensupport ini. Bagaimana kira-kira kita bisa mengubah atau menghilangkan bahkan gap yang tadi ada, mulai dari upstream, midstream hingga downstreamnya.
Ya, tadi juga sudah disinggung bahwa public partnership, ya, pemerintah, petani atau peternak, kemudian juga perusahaan, ini memang harus berkolaborasi. Kita tidak bisa masing-masing berjalan sendiri. Karena masalah khususnya di pertanian, problemnya adalah hampir semuanya, semua komoditi sangat kompleks, dari rantai pasok, dari mulai hulu, kemudian dari mulai budidaya, kemudian pasca panennya sampai ke hilirnya, semua penuh dengan masalah. Oleh karena itu, kolaborasi antar pemerintah, kemudian juga pelaku usaha, petani kita yang mayoritas tadi disampaikan edukasinya juga masih perlu ditingkatkan. Nah, ini tentu harus didorong juga dengan kerjasama industrinya, perusahaannya. Dan di perunggasan adalah salah satu komoditas yang hulu hilirnya cukup bagus. Dibandingkan dengan komoditas pertanian yang lain. Di perunggasan dari mulai pembibitan, budidaya, kemudian rumah potong sampai ke meja itu sudah rantainya sudah cukup bagus. Tetapi problemnya adalah masih terlalu panjang rantainya, dan yang paling penting lagi khususnya bagi peternak rakyat, bisnis ini masih belum begitu menguntungkan. Karena ketergantungan antara peternak, perusahaan, dan ekosistem yang ada masih belum optimal. Oleh karena itu, maka apa yang harus dibangun? Yang harus dibangun adalah kolaborasi antara tiga bagian tadi untuk menuju suatu titik di mana semua tahapan dari mulai hulu sampai dengan hilir mendapatkan porsi keuntungan yang tidak terlalu jomplang satu sama lain, seperti itu.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Agung. I'd like to go to you, Mr. Billy Tham. So now I started to believe that what I eat actually makes up what I am today, and maybe 50% of what I ate comes from JAPFA, I would say. But I mean, you have been in the business for quite a long time. JAPFA has been leading the National Agri-Food Company for 50 years and so, with experience in providing animal protein. So in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges now to ensure food safety and quality in Indonesia? As mentioned by Mr. Aryal, from farm to table, there needs to be assurance of certain quality of food. So it's not only that we have enough food, we have self-sufficient food, but also safe food that we eat.
So I think the most important thing is that we have the right certifications, work with the government to have the certifications like the NKV, the HACCP, the ISO 20000 in the practice. And I think I also mentioned that earlier that we have to have the education on food safety, hygiene practices, and for example, like when you have your chicken, if you freeze it and you thaw it, you cannot refreeze it again. These basic food safety practices have to be strictly adhered to. So I think that's the main thing that we have to do. It's the education of the consumers.
All right, so education is the key. Now, Mr. Aryal, you talk about youth generation that needs to be drawn towards, farming, fisheries, and all that. What are the best strategies to attract them, the younger generation, to these agri-food sector, and to ensure that they do it sustainably for the new generation of farmers?
Yeah, let me quote three people I have met within the last 3-4 months. One girl from NTT. NTT, she was from Kupang, and she said, I'm really interested in farming and livestock, but who is opposing me is my parents.
Wow.
They don't want me to become a farmer. Then I met another girl in Sukabumi who was buying the sidat, the eel, processing, putting on her motorbike, and selling in the local market every morning. And she said, "This is brilliant. Did you face obstacles?" And she said, "Yes, I did. From my friends." They were thinking I was crazy. Instead of making TikTok, I was fish processing and I was selling. But who encouraged me? My parents. Then I met another young farmer who was raising livestock in Bali, young guy. And he says, "I'm very proud of what I am doing, but my friends do not want to meet me and hang out because they say I stink." And say, "Oh, then you should have said that you can buy perfume because the amount of money you are making would allow you to buy perfume." But the common thing among all the three at the end of the day was that they were making money. And money they were making like every week, if not every day. And that was becoming a sort of like a attraction factor, inspiration factor for other youth, because those who were thinking that they were like wasting their time, now they see they were making money. So I think this is extremely important, that we educate and try to involve, and also see how can we help families, you know?
The parents.
And use these youth as resource person from one place to the other. If somebody is doing extremely well in Entete or Bali, can we take the person to Kalimantan and talk to the youth? That is possible. You know, I'll give you another example of a lady. Her name is Nisa Wargadipura. If we check on Google, you'll find her name. She runs a small pesantaran in Garut. This year, she traveled to Rome because she was awarded as one of the global food heroes. What she is doing is actually for the last 10 years, she has been training the young students on school gardening and family farming. And this has largely contributed because the students, they go home and they educate their children. So these are small examples, but that can make things possible. So I always call them food heroes. I think we need to produce more food heroes in the country, across the country, and mainly the youth. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, thank you as well for doing all the blusukan and find the food heroes in Indonesia. But when you see all these problems and all these beliefs, let's say from the parents and all that, even though the young generation, they have visions, they have the urge to do better in farming and fisheries and all that, how can FAO comes into the frame here and give a help?
Okay, that's a very good question. And that's what I always refer to this pilot project. FAO is not a donor agency. We don't have money, you know. We have very small voluntary contribution. But what we try to do with small contribution, we try to make a difference. And this is where we are actually training the youth along the whole food systems value chain, so that once they go to the market, and at least like 70 to 80% of them become agripreneurs, they can be inspiration for other people. We can do pilot works. We are working together with the Ministry of Agriculture. I see Patibe Heru now here from KKP. We are working with the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries and setting some pilot projects and setting the examples. Yesterday, I was looking at one Instagram post from KBRI, the Indonesian embassy in Rome. They put a success story of our project with the local communities, local Masyarakat Adat, on conserving the fish species and organizing the women in form of cooperatives. They were all housewives. They are organized in cooperatives, and they have started producing sidat. Not only producing, but also processing and packaging and exporting. And these sidat are served in sushi restaurants in Japan. You know, and that needed some effort. And now the ripple effects is that, you know, things are happening also through others. People are replicating it. And this is what FAO can do. And on top of that, you know, early this year we had Asia Pacific Regional Conference. And the delegation from Indonesia, the head of delegation from Indonesia talked about regeneration of youth in agriculture as a national problem and way forward. And the council of FAO, the council chair, he raised his hand and said, Indonesia is the only country talking about regeneration of youth in agriculture. No other country in the world is talking about it. So this is what FAO can do. And we are doing it with Indonesia. Thank you.
We are glad that you are here, and thank you for doing that, and keep doing that. So I'd like to go to Mr. Billy again. You talk about the education from everyone in the chain. Now, when we see Indonesia, we have quite abundance as well, as mentioned by Pak Agung. We have the resources here. Do you think Indonesia can contribute to the global food security? If we're done our homework and we're okay, internally, locally.
Right, that's right. Yes. So I think Indonesia is such a diverse country, right? There's so many different types of foods and products we have in Indonesia. So I think yes, I think I think we have already shown that we can export successfully, like through OLAGUD to Singapore, and with JAPFA we also exported our Toba tilapia to countries like Korea and also to Costco in the US. So there's a lot of opportunities. I think Indonesia not only has like proteins, but also like the coffee, the spices, and amazing products there. And I think there's a lot to be done about exporting Indonesian rasa, or like the taste of Indonesia, right? So I'm from Singapore, but I love the padang, the soto, the bakso in Indonesia, and I feel that this has to be exported as well. So the culture and the taste of Indonesia has to be also promoted overseas, and we can probably try to see how we can export some of these products, maybe in terms of value-added products, to other countries, and export not just the food, but the culture as well, and promote Indonesia.
Oke, thank you Pak Billy. So saya akan ke Pak Agung lagi nih Pak. Tadi kita bicara bagaimana kira-kira yang dibutuhkan atau bagaimana kira-kira pemerintah bisa memberikan support ya untuk industri, terutama untuk sustainable agribusiness. Karena kita sedang bicara bagaimana Indonesia transforming towards a more green economy, everything is going to be sustainable. Kira-kira bagaimana Pak yang bisa diberikan oleh pemerintah supportnya?
Ya, khusus untuk komoditas peternakan saya mau menanggapi dulu tadi yang ditanyakan ke Pak Billy.
Oke.
Ya. Untuk produk peternakan saat ini kita sudah swasembada khususnya untuk unggas. Berapapun kebutuhan yang diminta kita siap. Menghadapi program makan bergizi kita pasti siap. Bahkan kita siap untuk ekspor juga. Untuk memproduksi secara kuantitas kita sanggup. Produk peternakan seperti unggas, daging broiler, kemudian telur kita siap, bahkan domba kambing pun kita sudah surplus juga. Jadi ini menunjukkan bahwa kemampuan Indonesia bisa menyediakan pangan bukan hanya untuk Indonesia, tetapi juga untuk dunia. Dan kita berharap dalam waktu yang tidak terlalu lama untuk beras kita kembali untuk ekspor. Seperti yang dulu tadi disampaikan oleh Pak Rajendra. Nah, bagaimana pemerintah memberikan atau mendorong agar bisnis terutama di peternakan bisa sustain ya Mbak tadi ya. Yang pertama tentu tadi kita harus membangun ekosistem bisnis ini menjadi menarik. Pemerintah harus memfasilitasi bisnis. Kalau industri sebetulnya pemerintah tidak terlalu banyak masuk. Karena kalau sudah menjadi industri, pemerintah harus mundur. Justru yang menjadi masalah adalah bagaimana agar industri ini bisa bersama-sama dengan kalau di peternakan, untuk yang peternak menengah dan peternak kecil, agar bisa tumbuh dan berkembang sama dengan yang industri. Ini yang terus kita dorong. Karena kalau hanya dibangun industrinya, sementara di peternak rakyatnya atau peternak mandiri kalau diunggas juga tidak kita tumbuhkan dan kita bantu, maka ya tidak akan menguntungkan banyak pihak. Untuk peternakan ayam broiler dan broiler, peternak rakyat kita hanya kecil, hanya sekitar 20 bahkan kurang 20% dari produksi secara nasional. Tetapi di layer kebalikannya, 80% adalah peternak rakyat. Nah ini yang tentu tidak mudah juga bagi pemerintah dan tidak sama approach-nya untuk mendorong industri ini agar bisa sustain ke depan. Kalau untuk bicara sapi di ruminansia besar, sapi perah maupun sapi pedaging, 80-90% adalah peternak rakyat dengan skala kepemilikan yang sangat kecil. Nah inilah yang kita dorong. Kenapa di unggas kita bisa swasembada? Karena kita punya perusahaan terintegrasi seperti JAPFA. Kita juga punya peternak kecilnya. Kalau di sapi, peternak besarnya yang terintegrasi tidak ada, atau ada tapi sangat kecil. Nah, sehingga kita dorong yang megafarm tetap jalan, kita tumbuhkan, dan peternak rakyat juga terus kita dorong untuk kita besarkan. Dan inilah peran pemerintah untuk menjaga ekosistemnya harus bisa menarik bagi semua. Apa salah satu upaya kita? Upaya kita adalah meyakinkan kepada para pelaku usaha bahwa produk yang dihasilkan itu bisa diserap dan bisa laku dengan harga yang tentunya affordable, yang bisa mendatangkan keuntungan bagi para pelakunya. Itu yang kita dorong dari sisi pemerintah, karena kalau mereka menghasilkan produk kemudian harga jualnya rugi, ya itulah yang nanti akan menyebabkan pelaku usaha akan tidak sustain seperti itu.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Agung. Kira-kira ada nggak sih is there any formula to solve this problem with prices? Because food, when it comes to nutritious food, is not that affordable in Indonesia. Or maybe from all of your perspectives and experiences, could you give insights? What can be done, like as a quick win, as a shortcut, or maybe not a shortcut, but I mean, what can we do now to try to handle that problem? We're talking about, okay, vast geographical area. We're talking about maybe centralized somewhere, and some of the areas are very remote as well. What can we do in order to make it well distributed and quite affordable for at least Indonesians, like a big chunk of Indonesian population?
I think you talked about upstream, midstream, and downstream already. Yeah, I think, again, as I come back, there's no quick fix. And one thing, we are talking only about production. We are not talking about the environment. The minister made a presentation about the impacts of climate change. There are external challenges we are facing, which are directly impacting agriculture or fisheries or forestry. Even agriculture is consuming so much of water. Water scarcity is another issue. So we say production, but we also say better production and better environment. So we need to have that balance. But what you said, again, there's no quick fix. But we need to look at upstream, midstream, and downstream. What are the things? How do we connect the dots? I think this is where we need to, because there are also external factors. Say the conflict in Ukraine. At one point, before the Black Sea Grain Initiative happened, international market price of fertilizer, the oil, was going up. That was directly causing inflation in different countries. The food price was going up. So there are also external factors that you cannot control. There are factors like impacts of climate change you cannot control, but you can minimize. You can mitigate. You can take extra measures, to counter them in order to reduce the impacts. At the same time, how do we boost the production? How do we make the production competitive and balance the price? Is the rice production in Indonesia as competitive as Thailand or Vietnam? No.
Yep.
So what can we learn? And I always try to talk about South-South and triangular cooperation. We can learn from each other. There are good practices across the border, probably, maybe Malaysia or in Singapore has very good business practices we can learn, right? On food certification, the food safety issues, but also minimizing the prices. So I don't think that, you can just subsidize everything and control the price and give the things. That is not sustainable. So in order to maintain the sustainable practices, I think we need to look at all, upstream, midstream, and downstream. I think you rightly put it.
Right.
And try to connect the dots. Where do we fill the gaps?
All right, thank you. Okay, then I'd like to go to Mr. Billy. So you talked about how you actually successfully achieved the delivery of live chickens to Singapore. So maybe you could tell us more about that, share more about how you did that.
Yeah, so maybe I'll give a little bit of background on that story. So in 2022, Malaysia actually banned exports of chicken to overseas for their own national food security. And I think in Singapore, we all panicked, right? So, Singaporeans love their chicken rice. And without the supply of fresh chicken from Malaysia, which is the only source of chicken, we could not have our chicken rice. So we worked with both the Singapore government and as well as the Indonesian government to make this happen. And it was almost like a 10-month journey, I would say, to actually make this happen, right? So it was a power of sheer will, where we helped to build farms in Bintan, work with the Indonesian government to make sure that they are even influenza-free, AI-free, make sure that the chickens pass the Singapore strict standards of having no salmonella, no antibiotics, no growth hormones, and then making sure that the chickens stay alive from a 10-hour journey from Bintan to Singapore on a boat, right? So I think, after many sleepless nights, like 2 weeks before that shipment, we were very relieved when they arrived in the Singapore Jurong port, and the chickens were successfully sold in Singapore, and there was no incident. So I think, it was kudos. It was, like I said in my last slide, it was a joint partnership between the government and JAPFA, and also with like the farmers as well.
All right.
Very low mortality, actually even lower than mortality versus Malaysia. So everyone was very surprised. Like actually the chickens, when they arrived in Singapore, they looked actually happier.
Oh, okay.
Because they
look
enjoyed like the
happier.
sea breeze over the night. So
All right. You also mentioned about that the customers nowadays are actually changing. How can companies adapt to these changes of the needs of customers or what they want?
yes, so I think like Indonesia, right? I think basically what we need to do is market research, right? So when we develop products for the Indonesian market, we need to understand what the customer wants and how do we develop the right customers and the right products to deliver to their needs. So I think after we do that, then it's very important to have like a strong innovation and R&D capabilities within the company. So we have recently built a JAPFA Food Innovation Center in Bogor that meets this need, where we consolidate all the best resources that we have for innovation and R&D in JAPFA into one location. And we come up with like delicious, nutritious, and healthy products, not only the premium products like OLAGUD, but also like all segments, right? At every price point, we have something for everyone, and make sure that it is affordable, convenient, and healthy for everybody in Indonesia.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind if anyone would like to ask a question, you can scan the barcode again and submit your question. But I'd like to go to you, Mr. Rajendra Aryal. So the climate crisis are imminent, and we know that this is impact quite heavily on the agriculture. So how can we mitigate better in Indonesia? You mentioned about technology, but these climate crises are very, very heavily impacting Southeast Asia region, and Indonesia is at the front line of that. So how can we better mitigate these crises?
Yeah. No, this is a big challenge. It's across the globe, actually. Though in this part of the world, we are producing probably less greenhouse gas, but we are suffering more. And that's where all these carbon payments and things are coming, but I don't think we are still better compensated. We need to fight for more compensation. I give you another example. Since I work in the field with different communities, in eastern part of Indonesia, Entebbe, which is relatively drier, right? So it's not very favorable for rice farming. So what farmers do, they produce jagung, corn. But the way they were producing jagung was not enabling them to get the food security through all seasons, including the lean season, which is like, say, November to January. So 3 months, they still had that food insecurity issue. So we worked together with the community and Ministry of Agriculture and introduced something called conservation agriculture. It's a very simple technology where you go to the rocky soil where there's less water, you dig the holes, you put the corn seed and use the organic manure, and the production was like almost 30-40% higher. So that was possible with simple technology. And when I met the communities and interacted with them, they said, this has not only enabled them to keep sufficient corn for the lean season, they were even able to sell the surplus produce in the market with the use of internet apps. Okay, that is an example. Countries like Vietnam, countries like China, they have also produced different varieties of seed that are climate tolerant. So if you have drier areas, or if you have places like, which is flooded, Cambodia, they are having a lot of floods, but they have, flood tolerant variety of rice seed that can still grow. It's like a floating rice. Vietnam also has that. So there is technology available because a lot of countries have invested a lot in research. So we can adapt those technologies available. That's why we should not hesitate this South-South and triangular cooperation. Indonesia is such a vast country. Agung is here. See, there is a threat of transboundary animal diseases. You know, say, foot and mouth disease came after like 31 years, right, Pa? 31 years. And foot and mouth disease suddenly came.
Yeah.
So, I mean, COVID was a big wake-up call for all of us. Because I remember President Obama was telling we should be well prepared for next pandemic. Before COVID, he had said that. So we should still be prepared for next pandemic. We don't know when the next pandemic is coming. But again, I think we need to build on some of the best practices. It could be at the country level, it could be at the global level, it could be at the regional level. And there are good practices, you know. But again, mitigating or fighting climate change, it's also not a quick fix. We need to still work together. We have a long way to go. And as I think the minister was telling this morning, population is growing, the number of mouths is increasing. We are having more and more hungry people in the world. You know, and there are a lot of things, you know, if you see the conflict at the global level, in one way or other, they also affect our lives.
Sure, true.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Baik, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, now we have received question from the floor. Yang pertama ini ditujukan kepada Pak Agung. Pak Agung, bagaimana Pak, ini dari Pak Adi ya pertanyaannya. Terima kasih pertanyaannya. Bagaimana strategi Kementan untuk menangani pakan ternak yang terjangkau dan terdistribusi dengan baik? Silakan Pak.
Ya, ini khususnya untuk sektor perunggasan ya. Kalau untuk sektor ruminansia, komoditas ruminansia mungkin jauh lebih mudah. Untuk sektor perunggasan, tantangan terberat kita adalah bagaimana menyediakan pakan unggas yang terjangkau. Dan kalau kita bicara di Indonesia, sumber unggas kita itu hanya di 7 provinsi. Di luar itu, tidak banyak pertumbuhan peternakan unggas karena yang paling utama adalah harga pakan yang cukup mahal. Karena logistik kita juga cukup mahal. Nah, bagaimana strategi Kementan untuk menangani pakan ternak? Tentu kita mendorong agar industri pakan ternak khususnya di unggas bisa menggunakan sumber-sumber bahan baku lokal. Kita contohnya punya dari sawit itu, apa namanya? Dari limbah sawit, kita banyak ekspor ke luar negeri. Padahal sebetulnya kalau itu digunakan sebagai bahan baku pakan kita, mungkin akan mengurangi harga pakan yang dijual di dalam negeri. Kemudian juga kita masih bermasalah dengan distribusinya. Betul, kenapa? Karena memang logistik di kita masih cukup mahal. Kalau kita mau membuat pakan ternak ini murah, Kementerian Pertanian tidak bisa sendiri. Harus ada dukungan dari kementerian dan lembaga yang lain. Contohnya yang paling gampang adalah Kementerian Perhubungan misalnya. Harus ada rute yang menyebabkan pakan ternak kita dari sentra produsen pakan yang rata-rata di 7 provinsi tadi bisa terdistribusi dengan kos yang tidak terlalu mahal ke daerah-daerah yang tidak bisa memproduksi pakan ternak tadi. Tetapi intinya ini PR bagi kita semua. Kementan juga terus bekerja sama dengan perguruan tinggi untuk bisa mengoptimalkan dan memaksimalkan bahan baku pakan ternak kita dari dalam negeri. Bahan baku pakan kita mungkin 80% masih impor kecuali jagung. Selebihnya kita impor dari luar negeri. Dan itulah yang menyebabkan harga pakan kita cukup mahal. Kalau kita bisa menggunakan, mensubstitusi dengan produk yang ada di dalam negeri, maka kita bisa mengurangi biaya memproduksi pakan ternak tadi. Untuk jagung mungkin kita sudah cukup, tetapi 80% komponen yang lain itu masih harus diimpor dari luar negeri. Itu yang ada.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Agung untuk jawabannya. Ini ada lagi pertanyaan, kayaknya Pak Agung laku sekali hari ini Pak. So this is again addressed to you. Pak Agung, comment on lower free meal program to 10,000 rupiah, right? Since the current free trial cost is at 12,000 K. So there's a difference of 2,000 rupiah from the trial and the planned later on 10,000. So which items from the free meal program or which item that will be likely trimmed down? Jadi Pak, dari 12.000 ke 10.000, kira-kira item apa yang bakal dikurangi atau mungkin disimplify gitu ya supaya bisa mencapai 10.000 aja nih per porsi?
Sebelum saya menjawab, saya akan menjelaskan pengalaman kami dari trial yang kami lakukan baik di Banyumas maupun yang kami lihat di Sukabumi. Pertama, jumlah tadi waste loss ya tadi ya. Jadi sisa makanan untuk dari program ini yang paling banyak yang pertama tuh sayur. Sayur itu pasti banyak lebihnya. Karena anak-anak kita kebanyakan tidak suka makan sayur. Yang kedua nasinya. Anak kelas 1 dengan sampai anak kelas 4 SD, kalau porsi nasinya sama dengan anak kelas 4 SD ke atas, itu juga pasti akan lebih. Jadi harus kita lihat porsi dari menu makan bergizi ini disesuaikan dengan umur dari penerimanya. Kalau memang umurnya lebih kecil, nasinya dikurangi. Kemudian porsi sayur juga, karena banyak yang kebuang tadi, waste-nya terlalu banyak. Kemudian yang kedua, kita terus mendorong agar bahan baku yang digunakan untuk makan ini tetap bergizi, tetapi harganya terjangkau. Saya tidak bilang murah, harganya harus terjangkau. Dan produk daging ayam, telur ayam adalah pangan asal hewan yang harganya terjangkau. Jadi kalau mau tadi kita memangkas biaya untuk satu paket menu, maka sediakanlah produk-produk atau bahan baku yang proteinnya tetap bagus untuk memberikan kesehatan kepada yang menerima, tetapi harganya juga harus yang terjangkau. Dan salah satunya adalah telur ayam, daging ayam adalah produk yang bisa digunakan untuk mengurangi harga per paket menu itu menjadi 10.000. Kami di Banyumas hanya 12.000. 12.000 itu sudah termasuk susu 200 mili karena kami menjual dengan harga PNBP, jadi harganya relatif murah. Tetapi kalau misalnya ya kita juga berharap paketnya ya jangan terlalu murah juga, karena kalau terlalu murah pasti kualitas gizi dari menu itu juga akan berkurang.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Agung. Jadi ini challenge dan kita perlu lihat siapa penerimanya. Jadi kalau misalnya memang porsinya terlalu besar bisa lebih sedikit gitu ya. Baik, sepertinya itu adalah pertanyaan terakhir. Terima kasih tadi dari Ibu Michelle, pertanyaannya untuk Pak Agung. Kalau kita bicara food security, tidak ada quick win. There's no quick win as such, mentioned by all of the speakers basically. So we have to break down all of the layers from upstream, midstream, downstream, and making sure that we understand. So education is key. And the government cannot do it alone. And this has been seen in all of the countries around the world, right? So let's do this together, because if we don't do it together, then we're not going to get there. And Indonesia, we are quite confident, hearing from your perspective, as well as from your perspective, that we have potentials, but we just need to be making sure that efficiencies are there, the waste food are no longer there, because we can feed 50 million people if there is no waste food. And let's be more aware on all of what we eat, because that's what makes up the good generation for the future. So I would like to thank all of our speakers. Thank you very much, Pak Dirjan, Pak Agung Suganda. Thank you very much, Mr. Tham, and of course, Mr. Rajendra Aryal for speaking on this panel. Your insights are very valuable. And as the end of the panel session has already reached, now I would like to invite all of you to stand in front of the table here, take the center stage. We have a token of appreciation for all of you. And for this, would like to, yes, please maybe come forward. I'd like to give a token of appreciation. So for this, would like to invite Pak Renalo one more time to come up to the stage and deliver the token of appreciation to the three gentlemen who spoke on this first panel. Yes, and also let's use this opportunity for a photo session. Thank you very much, Pak Agung, Suganda. We do hope that the government can be committed as well to run this program. Pak Billy, thank you very much for also speaking on this very first panel. And also, thank you for the commitment of JAPFA and Pak Rajendra, Aryal, thank you. Please do a lot of more blusukan in Indonesia and find, examples that we can learn from. And let's have a picture together with everyone, Pak Ronaldo and all the speakers. Yes. All right, don't forget to smile from ear to ear, gentlemen, if you're ready. In 3, 2, 1. One more time. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pak Ronaldo. Thank you, all speakers. You may all return to your seats.